Scenes of chaos today in Kabul. Sporadic gunfire rang out in the Afghan capital, which was captured by the Taliban on Sunday. American and international forces have secured the city's airport, but Afghans trying to escape the country can't get to it without moving through the streets controlled by the Taliban. Canadian soldiers are back on the ground to support evacuation efforts. Thousands of Afghans are eligible to come to Canada because of the work they did with the Canadian military and other groups. But the Prime Minister said today the Canadian government might not be able to get as many Afghans out as it wants to.
Unless the Taliban shift their posture significantly, which is something the international community and Canada are working on, it is going to be very, very difficult to get many people out. We will get some, certainly. But to get many people out, as many as we'd want, is going to be almost impossible.
Retired Major Paul Carroll is actively involved in the volunteer humanitarian effort to get Afghan contractors and their families out of Afghanistan. He is in Napanee, Ontario. Mr. Carroll, I'd like to thank you for joining us and ask you about the Afghans who are eligible to come to Canada. For that to happen, they have to get to the airport in Kabul. Describe for us the challenges these people are facing just trying to get to the airport.
The situation in Kabul, as you well know, is unbelievably difficult, deteriorating by the minute. The challenge of getting from the safe havens throughout the area that have been established for them through these Taliban checkpoints and the sea of humanity, those poor, desperate souls that have surrounded the airport and are trying to get in, is difficult, but not impossible. The situation, again, reports on the ground, just speaking with our man on the ground recently, it is so desperate that literally a family handed over the barbed wire to him, a 2.5-year-old baby, which is now under his care. And he's desperately now trying to connect that family back with their child. But that speaks to the desperation where they're handing children over to get them away from the situation.
As you described, the situation is very dangerous. Is there anything more Canada in its position can do to try to help these Afghans get to the airport and get on a plane?
I would say yes. Speaking with how he's now being named as Canadian Dave, who's facilitating a lot of the action on the ground for us, there are tactical options. It's going to require not insignificant risk on the behalf of the government and people on the ground, but nothing is impossible. Things can be done to get through those checkpoints. And we've resigned ourselves a long time ago that not everybody may get out, but the numbers of people that we could get out, if decisive action is taken, could be significant.
Can you speak to what that decisive action would look like for Canadians that don't necessarily understand what is required to make that happen?
I'm not going to get any of the tactical details. We're thrilled to hear that the Canadian Armed Forces personnel are on the ground. And if anybody's going to make this happen, it's the very capable and brave men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces that can do good work.
There are incredibly difficult tactical, security, and safety concerns. So I totally understand and respect that that is not a question that you can ask, and I didn't want to put you in a bad spot there. There are as many as 5,000 Afghans who do qualify to come to Canada because of their work with the Canadian mission. As you heard that clip we just played of the Prime Minister, he says, unless the Taliban changes its posture, it's going to be difficult. Do you have any hope, or are you seeing any sign that perhaps the Taliban might change its posture so that these individuals can get out and get safe?
I like to call myself a skeptical optimist. I'm not going to use the word impossible, extremely difficult. And over the last, it's all been one day, the last 7 days, but over 24-hour periods, our hopes have been dashed and then they've been increased and whatnot. So the lesson I've taken away and learned yet again is that, never give up hope. I do believe that actions can be taken to facilitate this. And although some of those actions may be unpalatable on the surface, i.e. negotiating with the Taliban, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to save that many lives? Under our care, we're looking at 1,200 people in the Kabul area that are in desperate need of help. And I would hope against hope, that we haven't given them false hope.
When you heard that clip from the Prime Minister, did it concern you to hear that tone that, the bar has sort of been set? The expectations for Canadians seems to be set lower than many had hoped here.
I appreciate that getting granular information, informing political awareness and decision-making is difficult. And we've been through that on our end as well. I would just posit that the situation can change. It's been changing minute by minute and day by day. So not to give up hope now and say that we can't get them out. It's just a question of level of difficulty and risk.
The airport in Kabul is only going to be secure for so long. This is not something that's going to last forever. What happens to Afghans who can't make it out in this window that appears to be open right now?
Well, I can't say for sure, but their options when that air bridge closes, none of them are palatable.
And that is the stark reality of this conversation. The Taliban has promised publicly amnesty for Afghans who've worked with foreign forces. But of course, there is so much skepticism when it comes to trusting word of the Taliban. Do you think that any of those comments from leadership within Taliban should be trusted at all?
We have to be very careful to refer to the Taliban as any type of homogenous or monolithic entity. It's a collection of Talibans. So at the highest levels, I'm sure there's being some pragmatic decisions making in terms of its relationship or future relationship with the international community. At the lower levels, luck will be a factor, of course.
Mr. Carroll, I want to say thank you very much for your time today, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you, Katie.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.